Point of View is powered by Airtel Tigo Extra. Even our bonus data doesn't expire. You the film? Dial *111# to activate now. Airtel Tigo. Life is simple.
Welcome to The Point of View. This is your favorite current affairs show on television. Here on The Point of View, we get the right guests. We ask them relevant questions on things that matter to you. And in this COVID-19 season, we're urging you to obey all the rules from the WHO and the Ghana Health Service, which include washing your hands with soap and running water or using a hand sanitizer, as I would do on the screen. We're also urging you not to cough into your hands. You can cough into your elbow or into a handkerchief and dispose of it. We strongly recommend the wearing of masks, and I have a special one for tonight. You usually pick with one hand, you hook over your ears. Because I'm alone here, I don't need to wear it, but I'll demonstrate how it's worn and removed before the show ends. Please get your mask before you go out. It's very important. I'm doing a town hall tonight. I'm trying to bring as many perspectives on the issues as possible. I know you learned something because we're going to talk about two important things. Most of us know that without a vaccine, COVID-19 doesn't really end, because no matter what treatment we give people, so long as we don't get the population immune, it will be with us for a while. So I'm going to discuss the issue of a vaccine. When are we getting a vaccine for COVID-19? And also, we've had over 2,000 cases. All those cases have been treated. What medicine are we using to treat them? Are they medicines we manufacture here, or do we have to import them? What if this prolongs for another 6 months? Can we be able to get drugs? So we'll talk about how to manufacture. In fact, discover first, develop and manufacture the key drugs we need, not just for COVID-19. I have a fantastic panel. They're all at home, and they're going to join me when I come back. Stay with us. So it's not very often that you have a panel of 5, so I call it a town hall. It's a conversation about where we are with vaccines, where we are with drugs and treatment, and where we are with COVID-19. Because these are not ordinary times, the scientists will dominate our discussions from hence, and I have a very exciting panel. I have a senior lecturer at the Department of Chemistry, University of Ghana, Dr. Richard K. Amewu, not to be confused with another Amewu who's in politics. Dr. Amewu, great to have you. Good evening. Doc, are you there? Give me a wave.
Good evening, and thanks for having me on the show.
Great. I also have a lecturer at the Department of Biochemistry, Cell and Molecular Biology, University of Ghana, Dr. Patrick Kobina Arthur. Doc, good to have you. Good evening.
Hello. Yeah, good evening, and good evening to your viewers.
I like your curtains. It's like some church curtains.
Yes. I put it out for you.
Now, I have a research fellow, West Africa Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens. They call it WAC-BIP. Dr. Yabedi Aku, great to have you. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
You should find a shorter name for this. Your nice thing. WAC-BIP is too long, honestly.
I didn't name it.
I have from the industry. So the first 3 are from the academia research part of the work. Now we have the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association of Ghana. Executive Secretary is Lucia Adai. Lucia is a pharmacist. Lucia, hello.
Hello, good evening, and good evening to your cherished viewers.
Great to have you, Lucia. And then we have the very hardworking CEO of the FDA, who was at the press conference a couple of days ago, Mimi Delis Dako. Good evening, madam.
Good evening. Good evening.
It's great to have you. I wanted to prove a point before the interview by going to some of our websites. My first argument is that the issue of vaccines and drugs doesn't really come up in Ghana news. So, for example, when you go to citynewsroom.com and you run a search for COVID-19, almost all the stories you see, they have to either do with people fighting for money or people making donations of PPEs or our treatment numbers. So look at it. Rotarians in Ghana support COVID-19. That's our first story. Turkey registers 419 more COVID-19 recoveries. I don't know why that's the second story. Then there's COVID-19 technical team established to support frontline police. Then there's something from Nandom, something from Sisala, something from the UK. Then Nanado talks about our revenues. Then Obuasi records a case. First story on medicine is about a 7th story, South Africa to examine Madagascar's COVID-19 case. Now, as we keep scrolling, you notice that this is one of the very few stories on anything to do with COVID-19 treatment or COVID-19 in terms of vaccine or anything to do with treatment. If you go to other websites like My Joy Online and Peace FM Online, it's the same story you see. COVID-19 discussion on drugs or medicine doesn't register at all. So we thought it was important to balance the conversation to let people think about not just how many people have the condition, how many have recovered, how many have died, or all of those things, but how are they being treated? What medicines are they using? Is it true that you can use some herbal concoctions to treat COVID-19? I mean, this is My Joy Online as well. Most of the stories there have nothing to do with treatment. Let me just run through some of the stories I'm seeing. So you have stories on we are nowhere near the peak. Mahama must be supporting government's fight. Things to do with WHO, Western North, RegSeg, all kinds of stories. We are Olam Grains donates food to health workers. There's one nice story in the left corner. WHO cautions against use of unapproved traditional medicine for COVID-19 treatment. We'll talk about that too. So those are the two main stories I found to do with medicine or treatment. I didn't even find anything about vaccine for Ghana after many, many rounds of searches. So I think the conversation in Ghana has not discussed this at all. And I hope my panel will do justice to this. Let me do a quick first round of introductions. I'll start with Dr. Bedi Akon. So, Doc, you are a research fellow at WACBIP. In a minute, tell me what that means. What do you do at WACBIP, and who are you guys?
All right, so WACBIP is an African Center of Excellence at the University of Ghana that focuses primarily on molecular and cellular biology to understand diseases that are prevalent in our part of the world. So as our name suggests, we focus a lot on infectious disease. But of late, we've also begun to expand our focus to include non-communicable diseases like cancer, diabetes, and others.
Are you the guys who did the DNA sequencing for COVID-19 in Ghana?
Yes.
Okay.
So we, in partnership with Noguchi, sequenced the genome of COVID-19.
I see. Since you sequenced it, has it changed? Because we told that COVID-19 every week or two, it tries to change one or two things. Is it true?
That is a very good point. We are currently ramping up to continue the sequencing. So you won't know till you look. So we are continuing to try to sequence. We did 15 genomes initially, and now the plan is to try to do many more. If we can do up to 1,000, we would.
Wow.
To try to understand how the virus is changing.
I'm asking because I saw a story on BBC today, which I may ask you about later. It says, coronavirus mutations, scientists puzzle over impact. Think about that. I'll come back to you on that and other issues on the vaccine. Let me come to Dr. Amewu. Doc, you are a senior lecturer at the Department of Chemistry, University of Ghana, but I am told you wear other hats, and you are one of our key people in Ghana on drug discovery. Can you elaborate a bit on who you are and what you do?
Thanks very much. I lecture here chemistry department, and I'm a medicinal chemist with my research focus on drug discovery. So we focus on looking for molecules towards treatment of diseases such as malaria, cancer, where we do pure synthetic organic chemistry.
I see. So when we say somebody works in drug discovery, what does that mean? You work in a lab and you discover drugs? Is that what that means?
Yeah, so basically what it means is you look for chemical entities to treat diseases, either existing or new.
I see. Thank you. Let me come to Dr. Arthur. Doc, before I interview you, somebody sent a message for me to read to you before the interview. You seem to have a lot of fans in the system. So a colleague doctor of yours said, and let me just quote the message he sent to me. He said that, Bernard, I haven't seen Dr. Patrick Arthur since 1999 when I attended the medical school entrance interview with him. He was selected to do medicine, but rejected it and rather opted for biochemistry. He truly loves biochemistry. Many people would have chosen medicine. Say hi to him for me. This is from Dr. Hadi Abdallah, Kolebu.
Oh, wow.
Is this correct?
Yes. I know him very well.
You got medicine and didn't take it?
No, I wanted biochemistry.
Wow.
And the reason is that biochemistry is very broad. And so whilst we are excited about how drugs can provide hope, getting to it it's a long journey, and that's where biochemistry comes in. Okay, so my research at the University of Ghana has been to look for new ways of discovering drug candidates. So before I pass it on to somebody like Dr. Mewu to tweak and perfect for the pharmaceutical companies to,
And are you well paid?
We cannot talk about that on this show. Yes, but we are motivated. That one is not in short supply. Yes.
Thank you for your good job. Let me come to Lucia. So, who are the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association of Ghana, and what do you guys do, Lucia?
Okay, so like the name suggests, pharmaceutical manufacturers actually manufacture medicines in this country. It means that the medicines are done locally in the country. Now, there are about 34 manufacturers. We've been manufacturing for about 30 years. We do things like tablets, capsules, syrup, suspensions, IV fluids, like the intravenous fluids, which we call the drips. And there are so many other things that we can actually do.
Wow. And you are the executive secretary, which means that you are the one who does what?
So executive secretary ensures that administratively and also in terms of policy, we ensure that the members actually provide the medicines as stated. We protect and then promote the industry. So we ensure that pharmaceutical manufacturing is always strategic and on the minds of everybody. And I believe now more than ever that statement has actually been reiterated.
Very good. Let me end this round with CEO of FDA, Dr. Okay, did I say Doctor? Mimi Daku. So, look, FDA sounds like we know, Food and Drugs Authority. How busy have you guys been within this COVID period? I've read a few press releases from you. Just talk to me a bit about how your work schedule has changed because of COVID.
Thank you very much, Bernard. What I would say is that COVID is virtually resting on our shoulders. From the medicines that are being used to the nose masks that are being used to all the other PPEs. We are testing all the locally made PPEs. Even if there's a donation to the ministry, we are testing it. We are also doing public education. We have registered over 300 sanitizers in a very short time. And basically, everything that has to do with the treatment or prevention of COVID has to go through the Food and Drugs Authority to ensure it's quality, efficacious, and has good performance. Thank you.
I noticed you've sent press releases on a couple of things. We'll talk about that later. Some medicines that people have claimed are for COVID healing, and also you've issued statements on other things. So I'll come to those. But let me go to Dr. Bediako for my first question and first set of questions. Doc, so you guys at WACBIP did the DNA sequencing. Now, there's two questions I have for you. First question is, how come we don't have a vaccine for COVID-19, and how long will it take to get one?
Okay, I guess I'll start off by saying typically a vaccine takes anywhere from 10 to 15 years to develop. So that we should understand that off the bat. Any vaccine that you have currently in circulation, whether it is for measles or for any of the diseases that we vaccinate against.
Did you say years or months?
Years.
Oh, 10 to 15 years.
Yes. That is the standard. When you think about developing a vaccine, it's about 10 to 15 years, and it costs probably close to $1 billion. So
wow,
that is how much a vaccine typically would take to develop. Now, of course, in the case of COVID, it is an emergency. We saw the same thing with Ebola. There is a lot of attention and a lot of effort globally to try to fast track this process. So people are trying to do basically 15 years worth of work in maybe a year or 2 years. So currently the estimates that are out there that I've seen suggest that if everything goes well, and this is a big if, we might be able to see a vaccine by 2021, middle of 2021. Now I know the University of Oxford is currently doing a phase 1 trial. They are saying that they might have it by September. They might have quantities enough. But once again, they are doing a phase 1 trial, which is a very small safety trial. It doesn't even mean the vaccine is efficacious. So it's very unlikely, I think, most scientists would say, it's very unlikely that we would have a vaccine within less than 12 months, a vaccine that has been validated and works. And even that will be significantly shorter than anything that has ever been done in vaccinology. I mean, Ebola took, I think, a couple of years before they had a vaccine. It turned out to be a pretty efficacious vaccine. But of course, by the time the vaccine came, the Ebola outbreak had sort of petered out. So it's important to understand that people dedicate their whole lives, their whole research careers to develop a single vaccine. Those of us who study malaria, we've been working on a vaccine for over 30, 40 years. And we still don't really have a very good malaria vaccine. There's one that's currently being trialed in Ghana and other countries.
So if people say that until we get a vaccine, life may never return to normal, then your answer is pretty grim. That we could actually be wearing masks and do social distancing for the next 15 years?
Well, I think with all the effort that is being done, I think we will crack it before 15 years. Thankfully, it's a pretty small virus. It appears to mutate relatively slowly compared to others. Although, if you think about HIV, they've been trying to get an HIV vaccine for similar over 30 years, and we still don't have an HIV vaccine. So if SARS-CoV-2 turns out to be more like HIV than we expect, we might be in for a while. However, I guess in terms of life going back to normal, it's complicated. A vaccine will certainly be the silver bullet. A vaccine would solve things very, very quickly. If we don't get a vaccine, but we get drugs, and I know you're going to talk today about drugs, if we get a useful drug, that will at least improve people's chances, and so people can be treated. A vaccine is preventative. So once you get a vaccine, you don't have to worry about the disease at all. If you don't have a vaccine, though, but you have an efficacious drug. So with HIV right now, we think of it more and more as a chronic disease because there are antiretroviral therapies that are available. So even though we don't have an HIV vaccine, because we have medicines that are working, provided we don't get resistance, which is another issue that you have with the drug, life will be better. So right now, the world, the global effort is at two fronts. A vaccine, because that would prevent the disease and you wouldn't have to worry about it. But at the same time, there are huge trials going to try to develop new drugs. So I think currently we have 115 vaccine candidates that are being tried. Every day there's a new one.
Wow.
90% of them will fail if you go by current, what usually happens. Over 90% of vaccine trials do not go anywhere. But we have 115. So even if we lose 90%, we have a few that will sneak.
Okay. Another quick one. Are we more likely to get a drug than we get a vaccine in terms of the average time it takes?
I think if I was to, I'm not a betting man, but if I was to place a bet, yes, I would say we are more likely probably to get a drug. It may not be a perfect drug. Right now, there's a lot of work trying to repurpose existing drugs. So if you have a drug that already works, it's already gone through FDA approval, we know it's safe for consumption. If you can find a way to repurpose that drug to treat COVID-19, it may not cure, but it may promote survival in patients, then you can repurpose that drug. So it's sort of a band-aid, a plaster solution. It's a short-term solution.
Okay.
Of course, drug discovery itself takes a really long time from scratch. If you're doing de novo from nothing to a drug, that will take a while. But right now, what you're seeing with the Ebola drug, Remdesivir, which made by Gilead, which everybody's talking about now, that is a drug that was made for Ebola. They didn't really help too much with Ebola, but they've tested it for COVID, and it seems to have some effect. So now the US FDA has given an emergency authorization for them to try it. So that is an example of a repurposed existing drug. So in that way, yes, it might be quicker.
Let me ask Dr. Mewu and Dr. Arthur whether your work strays into vaccines at all, or you are more into drugs. Dr. Mewu first.
Yes, so I've not done any work on vaccines. My work had always focused on medicine.
On medicine, okay. So then let me jump. What about Dr. Arthur? Any interest in vaccines at all?
So I work only on drugs, no vaccines.
All right, good for you. Let me come to Lucia. Any of your members seriously collaborating or thinking about a vaccine at this point in your journey, or it has to leave the lab before it comes to the factory? So you guys are not thinking about vaccines at all, Lucia? Are you there?
That is the medication, being able to get medicines that will be effective for combating COVID-19. So we have a local guideline in Ghana that had hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin, and that's what we've been working with. There are other products that are coming on, and the manufacturers locally are looking at how we can actually manufacture that. So vaccines, yes, but it needs huge investment. It will need to collaborate with academia, and it's something that we can do long term.
So not in the short term. Okay.
Not in the short term.
Let me come to FDA. Mimi, so we are told that average vaccine takes probably a decade, yet people are hoping to get one by 2021. What role does the FDA play in some of these things? So when there's a vaccine developed, what do you guys have to say before they use it on our people?
Okay, so thank you. The FDA, actually one of its functions is to regulate clinical trials. So during the vaccine development process, there would be phase non-clinical animal studies, then there'll be phase 1 to phase 3 clinical trials. And the FDA is mandated to ensure that those clinical trials are done with sound science and that the patients or the participants of the trial are well protected. So we monitor the trials and we do GC, good clinical practice inspections of the trials while they are being conducted. Once all these phases up to phase 3 have been done, then the vaccine is ready for registration. And then the FDA registers the vaccine, and post-registration, we also monitor the safety in a wider population. So that's what the FDA does.
So if they want to get a vaccine by next year, 12 months from here, would you have to truncate your processes for that to work? So because there's so much pressure on everybody to get a vaccine, if some company says we have a vaccine, can they, to what extent will you allow them to fast-track the process before they use it in Ghana?
For FDA and for most regulatory authorities, patient safety is paramount. So even if any processes are truncated, safety of the patients would have to be monitored through that process. We would have to get to a point where we are sure that the vaccine is okay to go into humans. And once that vaccine is going into humans, the safety is monitored all the time to ensure that the patients do not suffer unduly or the people who are given the vaccine do not suffer unduly. So we would strictly monitor the safety, and we'll only do that if safety can be assured.
Thank you. Let me do a last question on vaccines with Dr. Bedia before I move to drugs. Doc, so since we started looking for vaccines in the world, has there been any vaccine that an African country or an African company has discovered? Because a lot of the names I hear are from the Western world.
The panel might know better than me. I currently cannot think of a vaccine developed by an African company. I stand to be corrected, but majority of the vaccines developed have been developed in North America or in Europe. Of course, we have been involved in testing existing vaccines. So when you're looking, like the CEO of the FDA said, before a vaccine can be used in a particular part of the world, it has to be tested. And a lot of the time we get involved in clinical trials. So malaria vaccines have been clinically tried in Ghana. Other vaccines have been trialed in Ghana. But the initial sort of preclinical development, that is where I believe we currently have the intellectual capacity to do it. But as the, as lady from the Pharmaceutical Association said, it takes a significant investment. But I think if you look at the people who are actually doing the vaccine trials now, 60% of them are small biotech companies in Europe and North America. They're not even the big pharmaceuticals, and they're not government. So I think that is something that we need to start thinking about in this country, the role that private industry will have, whether government will seed those industries and let them take off. But I think that is where we need to start going. We need to start developing private industry, because that's really where the initial startup, the initial biotech happens. It doesn't happen at the university, and it doesn't happen at the big pharmaceutical. It happens at private research companies. I think right now, 70 out of the 115 vaccines being developed currently for COVID are from small biotech startups.
So that provides some hope for us. Brilliant. Let me come to Dr. Arthur and Dr. Amewu. So vaccine looks like a long shot. What about treatment drugs? Dr. Arthur, are you guys currently working on anything in Ghana which resembles a COVID-19 drug at all?
The honest answer is unfortunately no.
Oh.
So we don't, from my own perspective and from the people I know working in Ghana, we're not working on anything that is advanced enough to offer a solution to COVID. Even around the world, everything that is being developed has been an existing drug that is being repurposed, like Dr. Bediako said. Okay, so we have to look now long term. Now that we know what a health emergency without a viable drug looks like, we need to now take some of these, activities very, very seriously, and not say we will sit back and allow others to develop it and then we will go and import it. We need to now take our own capacity and make it ready to make for impact. Yes. So the short answer is that we don't have anything in our hands that is advanced enough.
So between you and Dr. Amewu, who starts the process? If we are looking for a medicine to be discovered, are you the guy who starts and hands over to him, or he starts and hands over to you?
Perfect question. So it starts with it starts with cell biology and it starts with biochemistry. So we have to study the organisms that are causing the disease and find a way of making their life uncomfortable. So once we see a ray of light, then we go after the specific compound that is able to disturb this pathogen for us. And then we try to pass it then on to chemistry. So that's where we'll solve the structure, and then they have to, so all the drugs that we find at the first stage is not final. It needs to be taken through a lot of, cut and paste to make sure it comes out perfect. And that's the craft of medicinal chemistry. Okay.
Dr. Amewu, has any biochemist or molecular biologist given you anything to work with, asking you to develop on COVID-19? Since you are waiting, you have to wait for them to do something before you continue, right?
Yeah, so, we all know that COVID-19 just started a couple of months ago, and as Yao indicated earlier, the drug discovery or vaccine development process takes a very long time. So it's an outbreak that came and it's taking everyone by surprise. So even in the advanced countries where they are hoping of certain medications being effective against COVID, none of it has started from the scratch. They are currently looking at existing drugs and testing them to see whether they show any activity against the virus. So to answer your question, no one has yet identified anything from scratch. So what Patrick said earlier, there are a couple of understandings that needs to be sought. For example, understanding what is causing the disease. So here we are talking about COVID, how the disease progresses. Some of that knowledge is available, but there's a lot that is still not currently known for people to actually find something from scratch that we, the medicinal chemists, can improve upon in terms of improve upon how effective it is, how safe it is, and so on and so forth. So currently, no one has brought anything from scratch, but of course, the scientific community is looking into existing drugs and screening them to see whether they show any activity. And perhaps if there are existing drugs, then they can be tweaked a little bit for use against COVID, or use as it is for use against the disease. But with the investigation or assurance that it is safe and it's not going to have any side effects on people who are administered.
All right. Thank you. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll come to Ms. Adai and Mimi. We'll discuss a bit about what the industry is doing, because we know that some of her members have been very busy looking for money to develop certain treatments. And then we'll also discuss other issues around making drugs available. There's also a big controversial thing from Madagascar, where they say they have a traditional treatment, and some countries are already importing it. We'll discuss this. This is the point of view. It's a town hall on the race to find a COVID-19 vaccine and a treatment drug. We'll be right back.
Extra data, extra minutes, and extra unlimited calls. Not just that, even our extra data doesn't expire. See the film? Simply dial *111# to bundle now.
Airtel Tigo. Life is simple.
Imagine if you can get all the understanding on some of the difficult subjects you struggle with in school. As a student, do you feel dissatisfied with how hard it is to figure out the subject you're learning? Or as a parent or guardian, do you worry that your child is struggling to understand some of the subjects in school? Well, now you don't need to sign up for extra lessons or tutors. Simply tune in to Class Act, Mondays to Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. on City TV. Class Act is a show that seeks to enable senior high school students gain a much better understanding of what they learn in school. All you need is a TV, a chair, your notebook, and your pen. Get clarity on subjects such as maths, English, IT, and science. Class Act airs every Monday to Thursday at 5:30 p.m. on City TV on DSTV channel 363 and GoTV channel 182. Don't forget your pens, pencils, and your notebooks and tune in to Class Act only on City TV.
Welcome to the Point of View. We're talking the race for a vaccine and also development of drugs. I have a very fantastic panel. Dr. Kwabena Arthur is a lecturer at the Department of Biochemistry and Cell and Molecular Biology, University of Ghana. Dr. Yaobedi Akun is a research fellow at WACBIP. Dr. Richard Amewu is a senior lecturer at the Department of Chemistry, University of Ghana. Lucia Adai, Executive Secretary, Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association of Ghana. She's a pharmacist. And of course, Mimi Delise Dako, CEO of FDA. So, on the issue of, and thank you guys for staying, on the issue of developing new drugs, no progress. But I'm sure in modifying or playing around with existing drugs, certainly, Lucia, you can tell me something. That among your members, and I think there are about 18 or so, somebody should be definitely doing something. How many are they?
34 members.
34, great. Among that 34, at least one should be doing something for COVID, even if it's reconfiguring some existing treatment, true or false?
Okay, so I think it is important to be honest about what the facts are. So the facts are that traditionally we import active pharmaceutical ingredients, and these are APIs, and convert them to finished products. Now, I think for me, COVID-19 presents an opportunity, a platform to ask certain questions. And some of the questions would be, what can we do so that in the event that this should happen again, we'll be well prepared? Because it's obvious the whole world was not really prepared for this. And we can wait and let it happen again, or we can ask certain questions. What is the funding that we need? Do we actually sit down and leave things as they are? Or should we get more funding so that we can change how we do business as usual and then ensure that we do the APIs ourselves? Because it's obvious that Asia wasn't able to do what we expected them to do, or they were not reliable in these times. And maybe that gives us an opportunity. Maybe it's time for Ghana. Maybe we should ask ourselves, what incentives can we give to members or even new people so that they would come into pharmaceutical manufacturing? Because medicine security is national security. So yes, we have a protocol in the country. We obviously know that it's hydroxychloroquine. I'm not saying people should go to the pharmacy and say that they know that this is the medication that they need or anything of that sort. You need a prescription, and these medications go to the isolation centers to help in the therapy management of patients. But what I'm saying is that we have academia, we have people that are eager. Industry is prepared. maybe the question should be, what do we do next? Who are the stakeholders that we need? What can we do so that we change the narrative? Because today, we know that nose masks are being manufactured locally. I'm sure some months ago, we would not have thought about it. Everybody would be thinking that let's bring things from China. And that would mean that we're exporting our jobs and foreign currency and all of that. So let us look at the conversation strategically. Let us ask ourselves the questions. What can we do to change the narrative? And so for me, it's funding. It's a very intentional approach. It's targeted, it's focused, and we can change it from just waiting for the West to make the medicines and give it to us to actually developing some of these things. But we have the heads. We're sitting on the gold mine. So we need to change what the narrative is.
Okay, but Lucia, I think 2 days ago, Daily Graphic reported that one of your members, I think it's Tobinco or so, had been given some money by Exim Bank to locally produce hydroxychloroquine. Is this something you can confirm? And are they a member of your group?
Yes, so Tobinco Entrance is a member of the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association of Ghana. Let me use this platform to say thank you to Exim Bank. They've been very supportive. Apart from Entrance, they've actually supported 8 other companies, so which is good. It's a step in the right direction. They've given us funds. We need more of those funds to be able to move from where we are, which is increasing our capacity to a few millions, which is what we are doing now, to actually developing API and developing some of these medicines. So yes, I can confirm that some monies have come to some of the companies. It's taking a bit of time. So we need to do more than what we are doing currently.
And are those monies meant for importing APIs or to produce the APIs here?
Okay, so currently we do not manufacture APIs here. So what the medicines are for is that, of course, because now we need to store APIs in a large quantity or in good quantities for a good period of time, that would mean that our working capital has gone up. So we need money for that. We need money for new machinery. It's important to know that organizations, governmental and non-governmental, international organizations like WAHO, West Africa Health Organization, ECOWAS, have all called upon Ghana because our standards are very good. And of course, we have FDA. I have to thank Madam for all the good work that she's doing. And I mean, with all of this input, they've called upon us to actually help with this situation. So apart from Ghana, PMAG is also helping with what is happening in West Africa. So yes, I can confirm that the money is helping with our working capital, our machinery, and also some structures for us to scale up our capacity.
All right, let me come to FDA. Lucia mentioned hydroxychloroquine, and I think that was a story that the graphic also reported. Is that the official treatment for COVID in Ghana? Because I know you've issued statements on some treatments. You said, for example, that COIFS doesn't treat COVID-19. So, Madam Dakun, is this azithromycin and hydroxychloroquine thing, is that what we are officially using to treat our people?
Yes, Bernard. So we have the standard treatment guidelines for COVID-19. And the drugs include hydroxychloroquine, chloroquine itself, azithromycin, remdesivir, if it becomes available to us. Those are the main drugs. And the standard treatment guidelines tells you at which point which drug should be used. So in case somebody is tested positive, you use azithromycin, hydroxychloroquine, and chloroquine. If the person starts to show symptoms, there's also a regimen that you should use and a drug that you should use. So basically, it is hydroxychloroquine or chloroquine and azithromycin are the main ones that we're using at the moment.
I don't know if you are aware that the Ghana Medical Association has issued a caution dated 6th May, which I believe is today. And if, with your permission, I'll just read it for a quick comment. GMA, caution on the use of azithromycin, chloroquine, and hydroxychloroquine. And let me read. The Ghana Medical Association wishes to caution the general public about the use and the abuse of chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine, and azithromycin in the management of COVID-19. The GMA advises the general public to avoid using the above medication either as prophylaxis or treatment without prescription and supervision for a medical practitioner. Chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine, and azithromycin can affect the function of the heart by causing abnormal heartbeats and reducing the ability to contract effectively leading to serious health problems for the individual who uses the drugs, and in some cases can cause death. The risk is even higher for patients with COVID-19, and hence the need for strict monitoring of such patients by health personnel. It is therefore of utmost importance that individuals only take these medications on prescription and under medical supervision. And then they end by saying the association would like to reiterate the call on all persons to continue observing strict hand washing, etc. Signed, Dr. Frank Ankobia, President, Dr. Darcy Jackson. Now, Madam Daku, if something can affect the function of the heart and cause abnormal heartbeat, especially for patients of COVID-19, why is that? Why are we using it?
Okay, so I think if you read what the GMA said carefully, it is actually to caution people from going out in a panic and buying these medicines because they either think they have coronavirus. Some people are even using it before they do. And these medicines are prescription-only medicines. That means that they have to be prescribed before they are used. If you are diagnosed as having COVID-19, we usually recommend that you are in hospital. Therefore, you are being monitored as you are being given your medication. All your adverse events that you could get are also recorded, and the Food and Drugs Authority Safety Monitoring Department is monitoring these adverse events. So on a daily basis, we call all the treatment centers to find out if they've had any adverse events. What Dr. Ankobia is talking about is the known adverse event of both hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine. And they are cautioning that it can happen, and that's the reason why when you're taking this medicine or when you're being given this medicine, you are being monitored by a doctor in any of the treatment facilities. So please don't go out and go and attempt to buy them, as Lucia said, because they are prescription-only medicines. And
but madam, if it can cause your heartbeat to be irregular and kill you, does it matter whether a doctor prescribes it or whether you take it yourself?
As you know, adverse events are idiosyncratic and depend also on a patient's existing condition. So it will not happen to everybody. We've been using chloroquine over the years for malaria, and it was not happening. But there are certain people who will be predisposed. So I could take hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine, I will not have that adverse event or adverse drug reaction. But somebody else could. So these are the sort of things that the doctors would monitor with ECGs. So once you are in a hospital, all your vitals are taken, all your pre-existing conditions are known. And then if you are likely to suffer from it, there are also alternatives. If you cannot take it, there are alternatives that are also given. So the situation is that make sure that it is prescribed and make sure that you are being monitored. Therefore, all that you have is known before you take it.
Any comments from the panel, the town hall, about hydroxychloroquine? Does anybody have anything to say? Because I'm a bit shaken by the GMA statement. Dr. Bediako, is there anybody who has anything to say about this hydroxychloroquine thing? The fact that Trump promoted it, and we've had the US's own FDA issuing warning about it. We've had some French researchers also saying that they don't really think it is, I don't know, I don't want to misquote them, but it was really neither here nor there when they tested it against other drugs. So does anybody on the panel have any comments about hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin?
Azithromycin. Well, I can say a few things about it. So, as we said earlier on, this is a pandemic that took the world by surprise. So, the committee to look for is to use these two drugs. But the science is actually very mixed. Whilst others claim that it helps in improving the recovery of patients, there's also evidence in the community that suggests that it doesn't really help. So, and also as to whether they are actually killing the virus or they are just managing the symptoms, the scientific community is still divided about it. So that's why it's very important to heed to the GMA statement, and also as a nation we approach use of these two medications with caution. Of course, every medication has side effects, and the side effects that were listed by the GMA are not new. These are known side effects that people who or some people who administer these medications show, and therefore if they are administered to patients under the supervision of medical team. Like Delise rightly said, they can monitor the side effects and look for antidotes in case people are manifesting these side effects.
Okay. Dr. Bediako, what do we know about this other one, remdesivir? The Americans say that they will begin to make it available because it shortens the time people spend in ICU. And you told me earlier that it is used for corona. It was used for, what's the name? Ebola. So is this something you think we should be getting into Ghana, remdesivir?
I mean, I think the CEO of the FDA mentioned that is something that is on the guidelines, provided we can get it in Ghana. I am very skeptical of the hydroxychloroquine azithromycin. I really don't think it works. To be perfectly honest, the science is, I think, is overwhelmingly that it doesn't really help. And I think we are beginning to realize that there was a trial in the US that was stopped because they thought the adverse events did not justify using it. I think with remdesivir, even that the study was a little bit inconclusive. However, they did show that for people who were diagnosed early and who were put on this drug early, they appeared to leave ICU quicker. So like Dr. Meu said, right now we are it's a pandemic. We don't really know. We're scrambling. We're trying to use whatever will save lives. So the FDA in the US has approved remdesivir. Gilead has said they will donate all their stock to the US. So that's the first problem. Gilead is giving everything they make to their own country. I read today that they are in discussion with some Indian pharmaceutical companies to make generic versions of it available. So I certainly think that is probably where we need to be looking. It may work, it may not work. I think if it was me, I would pivot away from hydroxychloroquine and try to see if we can get remdesivir in an affordable package. Right now, the price in the US they are talking about is between $1,000 to $4,000 per patient.
Wow.
So Gilead is about to, if you have stock, buy stock in Gilead. But I think the good thing is they are talking about making it generic in India, which presumably then hopefully our pharmaceutical companies could then buy the API maybe and manufacture it here. So I think we should start to look at remdesivir. There is no guarantee it will work, but it appears to be a little bit more promising than hydroxychloroquine. The world seems to be pivoting away from hydroxychloroquine and looking towards remdesivir. But I think ultimately the drug is yet to come.
Well, that's interesting because even though the world is pivoting away, we have just given somebody $5 million to start producing it here. So I don't know what that says. I don't know whether, Lucia, I don't know. You don't speak for the company, but are you concerned that something that some people think is neither here nor there, you are rather investing money into? One of your members is? Lucia, are you there? Okay, I don't think she can hear me.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. So it's important to put this in perspective. Before we invested money to make some of these products, there had been some experts that met. So Ministry of Health brought together some experts. They looked at the data and they decided that this should be the...
Lucia, we are struggling with your sound because I think that the connection is not very good. So whilst we reorganize ourselves, I wanted to push another question to the panel. Clearly, we don't have the capacity to produce hydroxychloroquine originally. Neither can we do remdesivir or whatever it's called within a short period of time. One of our neighbors, Madagascar, say they have a herbal remedy. So, FDA, I don't know if you have seen or read about or studied the ingredients, but South Africa is ready to try the remedy that Madagascar's President Andre Rajoelina is promoting. And we are told it's a herbal remedy. So maybe let me come to FDA. What's your comment on this Madagascar issue? Hello, FDA.
Yes.
Yes. Have you heard about the Madagascar herbal remedy? And is this something you have started checking out?
Yes, we've heard about it. It's called COVID Organics. And I know it contains the Artemisia plant, which is the same thing that we have in some of the antimalarials, if you've heard of artesunate, artemisinin, yes.
Okay.
And another essential oil. So yes, we've read about it. What we also look out for is evidence. So you cannot just put a drug or a herbal product on the market without evidence and say it treats a disease. So yes, we've looked at whether there's any evidence. And so far as we've seen, it was tested in about 20 people over 3 weeks and came out with a claim of cure. There are no published studies. And what we would say is that we would need more evidence. There are some companies and some academia researchers who are also looking at some natural products for COVID. Some have approached us, we've looked at it, and they're going to go into some clinical trials. So at the end of the day, there's evidence that is needed. You cannot just take a drug because you think it works. You need some amount of evidence.
So are you saying that are you saying that you need a published paper to convince you? Because if they say they've given it to 20 people and they've all recovered, is that not the evidence you need?
I think they didn't say 20 people all recovered. I think probably about 2 or 3 people recovered. I don't think they said 20 people. So unfortunately, it can only be what we read online. And sometimes published papers, because they have a scientific community, would also help. So, so far as we can see, we do not see the evidence. And as a responsible regulatory authority, would not be the best thing to do to allow a product that does not have much evidence to be tried or used on our people.
But are you willing to undertake scientific analysis of it?
Definitely. I mean, if we have to, yes, we will. We don't do the analysis. The analysis is done by the researchers. So some studies would have to go on. The only thing that we can do is probably some quality analysis, but that is not efficacy and that is not safety. So the only analysis that can be done is if it is given to people and then it is studied. I don't know how far they've gone, whether they did any other studies or first introduced it into people. So yes, we'd be willing to, but I think our local people are also well able, and I know there are some pockets of trials that have started, some from the KNUST, and a couple of other people are looking at some local products. So we're open to looking at all of them once the evidence is there and once the safety can be assured.
Dr. Arthur, you are the guy who starts the process of drug development. We don't have the capacity to do the API for hydroxychloroquine or the other one, remdesivir.
Yeah.
Are you interested in this Madagascar matter?
It's a tricky question, you know. So I mean, the approach that I believe in is the one that, you know, uses the chemistry. So we identify the active ingredient, which is also referred to as the API, and then subject it to studies before it becomes a product. I don't subscribe to the, food supplement type of preparation. Yeah, I leave that to others to do. But I go for the, isolated compounds, because that's how chloroquine was discovered to treat malaria years ago, and it's still been,
Okay.
Yeah.
Quick one on Dr. Amewu. Madagascar, will you check them out, try what they are doing, and see whether it works?
Well, I mean, it's as a scientist, you don't put down what people claim or hypothesize, but what you want to do, as the list said, is you want to see the scientific evidence that it does work. So it will be interesting to actually have the scientific data to support what their claim is, because it's said to contain Artemisia alpha, which is an antimalarial known drug. So we might be seeing maybe the same kind of effect that is being projected for hydroxychloroquine as the same thing that perhaps the claim for Madagascar is doing. There's no evidence, and as we know now, that it's actually killing the virus. So what exactly it's doing, scientifically we don't know, and it has to be investigated adequately before we begin to consider it at all.
Okay. Dr. Bediako, let me give you a curveball. Are we at the peak of our curve? It came up in the week, and I have spoken to statisticians and people who've been looking at the graphs. They think it's not possible to be to say we are at the peak of our curve. Do you have any curve at WACSIP or wherever you are, and where are we on that curve?
I guess I was the panelist that drew the short straw to answer this question. But anyway, let me just put it this way. The data that I have seen that is publicly available, there is no indication that we are at any peak. The reason being, you don't identify the peak till you've passed the peak. So, if you look at all the countries that said we've passed our peak, they always say we've passed our peak because what they do is they track the number of cases. And if your number of new cases declines, then you can look back and say, oh, okay, on this day we were at our peak. But currently, the data that has been released by the Ghana Health Service, we have not seen such a decline. So unless there is data that they are yet to release that they are privy to that I have not seen, which is entirely possible, currently the publicly available data will suggest that we are still on the increase. And also I would say that, a lot of our testing, the government has done really well to sort of stack our testing at the beginning. So unlike many African countries, we're very aggressive with testing. But it seems like right now we are, the approach has changed. So instead of the mass exercise, we are now doing a bit more of a targeted approach, which means our total number of tests is going to decrease. This is a virus that's highly asymptomatic, meaning that if you don't look for it, you won't find it unless people are very, very sick. So if we do fewer tests, then by extension, the number of new cases reported will also decline. But that does not mean we have peaked. What we really should look at is the proportion of tests that are positive. So if you were doing 1,000 tests and only 10 were positive, then okay, and then now you are doing 100 tests, but 50 of them are positive. You've gone from 1% to now 50% positivity. So even though the total number of positives may decline because you are doing fewer tests, if the proportion of positive tests increases, then we are not declining. So it puzzled me a bit that the Ghana Health Service said we have declined because all the data says we are still on the increase. So unless there is data they are yet to release showing that the number of cases, and indeed not absolute number, but proportion of positive cases is declining, then I find that a little bit puzzling.
Okay. Let me read a few comments to wrap up. Good evening, Bernard. It's a pleasure watching your show. I believe the government is doing well. We are just not ready regarding vaccine creation in Ghana because research isn't our priority. Hello, Bernard. Please ask your guest about herd immunity. Can we achieve this without a vaccine with low risk? Bright Azuma, Accra Technical University. Good evening, Bernard. If the scientists say there's no vaccine for COVID-19 yet, and the doctors also say there's no medicine yet, and that infected COVID-19 persons recover basically through increased improvement in their immune system, and that hydroxychloroquine may not be the appropriate or most authentic drug, then why must the country spend money to promote the manufacture of this drug instead of supporting these scientists with the funds to help them come up with the vaccine or drug? Cameron in Takrady is asking. Bernard, the continent that has not much focus on scientific research, though our scientists are top-notch, I applaud them for that. We should not expect too much from them. We don't even have a biotech or vaccine production company in Ghana and almost all countries in Africa. I'm a biochemistry student of UHAS, and I'm overwhelmed by the type of scientists we have in this country. They've done so well in this condition. More comments. Kindly further from FDA, how far with the COVID-19 RDT by INCAS and KNUST? How far is it? And then Bernard, some of us are allergic to chloroquine. So how do we receive treatment from this drug? The last time I took chloroquine, I nearly died. This is pale. Okay. I have 30 seconds. FDA, can you make a comment about the RDT by INCAS? Is it in your possession? Are you sort of assessing it?
Yes, the RDT was submitted to us last Thursday. And we even met with the developer maybe 2 days ago. We have taken in the samples. We've spoken to him about how it was developed. And we've submitted the samples to Noguchi. So the evaluation of test kits is done between FDA and Noguchi. And so currently the samples are with Noguchi. And as soon as they finish the evaluation, they'll give us a report. And then we can put that report out. We can give the report back to the manufacturer.
I really have to end. But Lucia, since I lost you, I would give you 10 seconds to say what you were saying before we lost you, if you are still there. Lucia.
Okay. Hello, Bernard. If you can hear me, I'm still here.
Yes, go ahead.
I think for me, what I would say is that we need to learn a lot of things from COVID-19. And if there's nothing at all that we are learning, it's the fact that we should learn that we should be self-sufficient when it comes to medications. We should be very conscious about it. We should invest more and ensure that anytime these things come up, we are well prepared for them.
Thank you. So my guests have been Lucia Adai, Executive Secretary, Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association of Ghana. They have about 34 members, and they are the guys who manufacture the drugs for us. I also had Mimi Delis Dakun, CEO of FDA. They are the regulators of the industry, doing a great job. Mimi, keep it up. Dr. Richard Amewu, Senior Lecturer, Department of Chemistry, University of Ghana. One of our best brains when it comes to drug development. They take the baton from Dr. Patrick Arthur. He's a lecturer, Department of Biochemistry, Cell and Molecular Biology, University of Ghana. He dogged medicine to do biochem. He doesn't know if he regrets it or not. He won't tell me how much he's paid. And I also have Dr. Yao Bediako, Research Fellow at the elaborately named West Africa Center for Cell Biology in Infectious Pathogens, WACBIP. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being on the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
My name is Bernard Avila. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Stay safe. I couldn't teach you how to wear the mask, but, don't let it cover your eyes. I couldn't even do it. We'll see you later in life. Bye-bye.
Point of View is powered by Airtel Tigo Extra. Even our bonus data doesn't expire. You the film? Dial *111# to activate now. Airtel Tigo. Life is simple.